everyone, welcome to Promo Day 2015. I'm Daven Anderson, Press Coordinator for PDMI Publishing LLC, and welcome to my webinar, How to Submit Your Work to an Independent Press. The first question many of you would have was, why should I be targeting independent presses specifically when the usual conventional wisdom for prospective authors is to upload their work for DIY self-publishing on Amazon, KDP, or Smashwords, or to get an agent and query their work for the Big Five? Well, folks, I'm here to tell you that yes, there is plenty of life between KDP and the Big Five. And there is one basic rule of wisdom that I want you to know that will help you make the best choices regardless of your publishing path, self-publishing, Big Five, traditional independent publishers. There is one basic rule that applies to all. So let me start off with self-publishing. Yes, some of you should self-publish. One of the best things about self-publishing is that you have the total freedom. You don't have to worry about whether a publisher will find your work marketable or not. And you don't have to worry about what publishers specialize in or not, because when you're self-publishing, you can just upload the book yourself. The problem is that when you are the prospective self-published author, your work needs to stand out more so than any publishing house would have to do. You really have to capture the attention of the audience through the best possible work. Your work needs to be professionally formatted, edited, and you need a professional cover design. And the best way to prove that is to check the best-selling self-published titles, and you will see that there is hundreds of dollars invested in each of these titles. The professional levels of the work are quite obvious, and yes, it is possible to have a product that is as professional or more than the Big Five, but most of those best-selling authors, in fact 99.9% of them, have paid hundreds of dollars up front to get this quality of product. And you, the author, will have to do more work if you are self-publishing than any other way of publishing. So, be advised that yes, there are some freedoms to self-publishing, and it's nice to be able to publish anything you want, but you will have to do the most work. So that there in a nutshell is what is in store for you if you are self-publishing. Now, the other standard way of publishing is to query the Big Five through an agent. Now, one of the main problems there is that the Big Five are becoming risk averse, especially in terms of new authors. So you're really going to have to keep your fingers crossed there. But one of the benefits of getting an agent is that the agent has a pretty good idea of what can sell to the Big Five. It's not always true, but the odds are if an agent has signed you, your odds are pretty good that your product can be sold to the Big Five. Not always. There are a few stories of agents who have failed, but generally speaking, agents know what sells. So if you have acquired the services of an agent, you have a good chance. But one thing that would really help your agent out as well as yourself is that you as the prospective Big Five author would need to examine the work that exists on publishing houses and their imprints. You would need to read the work that's on the houses that you would be interested in, because you really would need to fit in with the houses on New York more than anywhere else. You would need to hew closely to the existing books that they have, and you would need to very carefully study the existing books published by that publishing house or the imprint. Your work has to fit in very closely with what they have because of their marketability restrictions and so forth, and risk aversion for new authors. So your work would have to fit in very closely with what they have. But if it has and your agent approves, you have a good shot. But it would help your agent if you, the author, had some idea of what houses you want to be on and what houses you want the agent to submit to. This is invaluable information for your agent. So if you are the prospective Big Five author, get a bunch of books and decide which house and which imprint you want to pursue and have your agent pursue. So that would be my advice to you there. Now, moving on to the independent traditional publishing world, there are many ways in which the companies can operate, and I'll go on three basic models. First of all, let me mention that you want to avoid the vanity presses where the main purpose of the press is to get you to pay for services. Many times there are certain presses, just Google Vanity Press, that will charge you a lot of money to publish the book in the first place, and they'll print you a few paper copies, and they'll pretend that they're putting them in bookstores and doing all the promotional work for you. Well, I hate to break this to you, but no matter what your publishing method is, you, the author, have to do the main bulk of the promotional work. No matter what you're doing, KDP, Big Five, independent, traditional, whatever you have to publish, you are doing most of the work. So don't fall for that false promise that the vanity press is going to do all the work for you. No, they're not. They're not going to get your book in all the stores and all that. It would be up to you to do that. And unfortunately, a vanity press would really hurt your chances of actually getting into bookstores, because most bookstores don't want to touch these books by the vanity presses. But there are three different ways that a reputable independent traditional press can operate, and I will go into these three. First of all, there is something like what Oswin Publishing LLC is doing, what you could call freelance or contracted services publishing, where you are paying for the editing and the formatting and the cover design up front, just as a contracted service that you, the author, are paying for these. And usually when you are on the freelance publisher like this, the contract is non-exclusive, and this can be a really helpful way to get paper books out there, because you can pay for the editing and format and have a really professional looking paper book to go along with your ebook. Because a lot of times on these freelance things, you have non-exclusive rights, and you can keep all your ebook rights and even do your own ebook covers or whatever. You can do your fully independent ebook and then also have your design version completed for you by the freelance publishing company. So this is a nice sort of way to have your cake and eat it too. But you need to examine what kind of work the freelance company will do for you in terms of formatting, editing, and cover designs. You have to examine their existing body of work and books that are actually available and see how they do there. So that would be my advice to you. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with just paying for the services, as long as the company is not trying to persuade you that it amounts to anything more than paying for the services. The honest freelance publisher is just like, you're paying for the services and you promote the book. It is not a vanity press in that respect. It is very honest. You are just paying for the services and you have to do the legwork. So the next model you can get up to is something like what Book Trope Publishing does, is where you are signing up for traditional publishing, but you get to select an editor and illustrator that you think best fits your needs. And in this case, you would have to be scanning the Book Trope team on the website and selecting the best editor and illustrator that you think would fit your work from the existing pool of the team that they have. And this may not always work out, but your chances are pretty good, because you do get to examine what those people have done before your work. So you would have the chance to pick your editor and illustrator. And this is something that the Big Five really can't seem to do. They're really set in their ways. So it's one advantage of the independent publisher, that that the author would get a voice there, that they can pick the editor and illustrator that they want. And that's one important advantage that Book Trope would have that few others can offer. So, and the third thing is there are publishers like my own house, PDMI Publishing, that I'm on as an author, where it's full, straight up traditional publishing. They assign you an editor and illustrator, and they do all the formatting and so forth. And it's a full traditional, just like the Big Five. You have to vet, you have to submit and be accepted. You don't have to have an agent. You, the author, usually submit directly to the publishing houses when they are independent houses. You, the author, submit directly, even if they are full traditional and it's vetted and accepted on that basis, just like the Big Five. But you get to submit to the houses. But what you also really need to be very careful in picking to see that your work will fit in with what the house is already publishing, because when the house is full traditional, they have certain works that they're specializing in. And some houses like PDMI have a wide variety of material that they publish, like children's and nonfiction and historical fiction, but other houses have much narrower specialties, like some will only take paranormal or historical fiction. So you really have to keep that in mind and target the houses that would be the best home for your work. So when you're dealing with full traditional publishing in the independent world, you do have to be very picky about the houses that you're submitting to. But the advantage is that you can submit to them directly, but just keep an eye on what they publish and be aware of what they publish, and then you have the best chance of being accepted, because you do have to pass a vetting process similar to what you would at the Big Five. So anyway, but the basic that I wanted to cover for everybody is just make sure that you examine the best-selling books on self-publishing, or the books that are being put out by the house. Examine the works that are already out there and see how your work would be the best fit for where you want to go. Because frankly, not all books will fit the Big Five, and this is where you can back down and go to traditional publishing with an independent press and find the one that is more likely to accept your work. And then you can go to something like Booktrope, where you can pick an editor and an illustrator and see if you can work with them the best, or just contract out the services like with Oswind and just pay for the formatting, editing, and illustration, and get yourself a good paper book and keep publishing your ebook. So there's many ways that you can go there, but just keep checking what's already out there and see where you fit in the best. And thank you from all of us at PDMI Publishing LLC and Promo Day 2015.